A homeless man who went on a crime spree just hours after being released from prison in the hopes of being returned there will spend another 21 months behind bars. Kaama Waenga says he broke into a dairy and bank because he had no options early on the June 1st this year. Critics of the justice system say the case demonstrates the siloed thinking of those in the sector. Our Otago-Southland reporter Timothy Brown has his story.
Released from Otago Corrections Facility at 8:30 at night on Friday, May the 31st, Kaama Waenga had no food, no money and no shelter. It was the Friday of Queen's birthday weekend, and so the small steps to freedom payment the 30-year-old was entitled to wouldn't be in his bank account until the following Tuesday. His lawyer, Sarah Saunderson-Warner, told the Dunedin District Court with no other options, Waenga found a workman's pickaxe at a road work site on the main street of Mosgiel, just outside Dunedin, and smashed the window of a dairy to alert police. When no alarm sounded, he stole a pack of cigarettes, walked down the road and threw the axe through a bank window. He took a cordless phone from the bank and, while walking towards the nearby police station, called 111. Telling them what he had done before sitting the phone down on the fence of the police station and awaiting his arrest. Kaama Waenga admitted to officers what he had done and explained he did it to be arrested or remanded back to prison. Former National Minister and Justice Advisory Group head Chester Burrows says the case is a clear illustration of what's wrong in the justice sector.
Releasing someone on conditions like you've outlined with Mr Waenga is a corrupt practice because the person isn't only set up to fail, it's impossible for him not to fail.
Mr Burrows says his work with the advisory group has shown him greater collaboration between government departments is needed.
It is completely siloed, and what we've been saying and what we heard around the country is that every government agency needs to take responsibility for government outcomes. It's incredibly difficult to get some of these agencies who see themselves as non-justice sector to take any responsibility whatsoever or even to get into the debate.
It's not the first time Waenga has offended with the aim of getting back behind bars. He was moved to Dunedin to live in supported accommodation while subject to a sentence of intensive supervision. He absconded from the accommodation provider and was charged with breaching the conditions of his sentence. He appeared in court on May the 31st to be sentenced for that, and while he received a jail term, he had to be let go later that day because of time served on remand. The reason for Waenga being subject to intensive supervision is because he smashed up a motel room in Rotorua last year, soon after being released from prison. His reason for that offending? To go back to jail. Penal reform campaigner Nigel Hampton QC says Waenga's case is sad, but not isolated. Too often corrections is being used as de facto mental health care.
He's far from unique, and where we fail people like him, as well as other categories of people with mental problems rather than criminal problems, is that we imprison them more in the same institutions, namely prisons. The focus is on security and containment, and so people like this who need aggressive and very intensive assistance with his substance abuse and other problems just doesn't get it in the prison.
Justice Minister Andrew Little says the government is working through the final report of the Justice Advisory Group, and it's apparent there needs to be a change in mindset.
They've done probably the most extensive community consultation in the last 12 months that we've ever had on criminal justice issues, and the overwhelming message they've got is, look, there are people who do things that are bad and that are wrong and that cause harm, and we need to deal with that, we need to call that out. But actually what we would rather is stuff that's going to stop them offending again. And what we want to do is have communities and community initiatives that means that we're not putting people back in a system.
National's corrections spokesperson, David Bennett, says when people such as Waenga accumulate criminal records, prison is inevitable. Greater work needs to be done to prevent reoffending.
I think we're very focused on de facto rehabilitation, where it's somewhat of a box-ticking exercise for some prisoners, and the real focus has got to be on reintegration. And that's the issue in this case, is the ability of that person to be reintegrated into the community so that they feel that they can survive in the community and don't need to go back to a life of crime.
Figures from corrections show more than 500 people have reoffended within a week of being released from jail during the past 5 years. About 5.5% of prisoners reoffend within a month. In Dunedin, for Checkpoint, Timothy Brown.